It's time to talk about another dark Italian thriller from 1965. This is Bloody Pit of Horror I'm going to be talking about. It was released November 28th, 1965, starring Mickey Hargitay, Walter Brandt, and Louis Barrett. Produced by Ralph Zucker and Francisco Merli. Written by Romano Glorini and Roberto Natali, and directed by Massimo Pupello, who also directed this under his pseudonym because, yeah, this is another one of those films that was made, and it was kind of like taboo to make horror back then, so they used a lot of like pseudonym names and stuff like that to hide their actual identities of doing it. And it could also tarnish their career. So yeah, so he used like Max something rather, but he's also done other films like Terror Creatures from the Grave and Lady Morgan's Vengeance, to name a few. He's only done like 10 films or something like that. But yeah, Bloody Pit of Horror is an Italian film. A lot of North American uh, film, B movie, and like those companies that put out like public domain films and packs and stuff tend to market this as an American horror film. But it's actually an Italian film where they kind of like make it look like American actors and stuff like that. But yeah, Bloody Pit of Horror basically is the story of, well, it starts off with a backstory of an executioner in like the 1700s or 1800s being killed because he killed some people that he shouldn't have. And yeah, so they execute him and hide his body in this castle. And but then it cuts to the present day, and some models and photographers are looking for a neat place to do a photo shoot, and they decide to sneak into this what they think is an abandoned castle, and they sneak into it, and then they find out that it's inhabited by a former actor who yeah, who is living there and doesn't want to be disturbed, but he lets them spend the night. And basically a lot of brutal things happen to them in this because he's not what they seem, and it's quite the big story. I might spoil this film because I'm going to go in a little more depth into the story now, just so you're aware. But basically, the actor, um, the people, the models and stuff start realizing that something's not right there, and some people go missing, and a couple of them are tortured, and they have some pretty elaborate stuff. This is like a precursor to Saw, basically. It's a 1960s version of Saw, almost. Because like there's a scene where a girl is in a mock spider web, and then there's like this really cheesy looking paper mache spider with poison on his claws. So if it gets close to her, she and touches her, she could die. But if anyone tries to run through the web, there's arrows all in the wall, sort of like Indiana Jones. And basically, the people two that find her are trying to come up with ways to sneak and find it. It's almost like a James Bond sort of feel in this scene, and basically, yeah, he makes it through, but just in the nick of time, too late. Just the way I like it. But it's funny too because the spider never actually touches the girl, but she dies. So yeah, there's some little odd ends like that don't make sense sometimes, but it was pretty cheesy and fun. Um, yeah, and then like later on, like the rest of them are captured and put on like medieval torture devices and stuff like that through apparently the Phantom Executioner, who you spoiler later find out is the actor playing it. And there's one big problem with this is the look of the Phantom. He does not look like the Executioner Phantom. He looks like a luchador Mexican wrestler for some reason, and it's really cheesy and funny, but the actors who played him seem to do a good job, and it looks fantastic. There's also one other big problem with this film, and that's the ADR, the English like dub over it, is absolutely terrible, unbelievable, and I think that's the biggest downfall for this film. Um, but overall, the story is interesting, engaging, and like I said, it's like a precursor to Saw. It was pretty violent for a film from 1960, and yeah, it was pretty interesting. They have characters that you like want to see survive and stuff, and yeah, that you want to root for and that you care about, and even the villain you sort of feel sympathetic for here and now, here and then. And overall, it was a fun, interesting time. Just the ADR, and I couldn't get over how bad the killer's look was. But overall, this is a decent thriller. I wouldn't call this a horror film because this is like a slasher thriller to me. Because basically, the way I consider like a slasher horror film is if you don't see the killer till like the very end, like Halloween and stuff like that. But if they show the killer and you're sort of like realizing who it is and then like learning the character traits and stuff of him, that's more of like a dark thriller, sort of like Silence of the Lambs, Don't Answer the Phone, that type of stuff is more of a dark slasher thriller, not a slasher horror. So that's the way I break it down anyways. Also, this film does feel like an early giallo almost, just not as in-depth or very like well thought out in some aspects, but overall, this is still an amusing, fun little film. It's only like an hour and 15 minutes, but it's still fun and interesting. There's some funny scenes in it too that probably weren't meant to be funny, but this one probably would have got like an X rating or something like that in the day if they released it back then like that. So, but yeah, it's still a fun time. Definitely try to find Bloody Pit of Horror. It's a decent film, but just be prepared that there's really bad ADR and yeah, the cheesy killer in it. So with that, I'm gonna give this one a 3.5 out of 5 because that's how I feel about it. I thought it was still fun and interesting though, but I definitely won't go out of my way and watch it over and over again or anything like that. Maybe once in a while, show some friends it or something like that. But yeah, I found a trailer for it too, so that's linked down below. And also my Instagram's always linked down below where I post clips of films and review in my on my story, and I also had the name of the film and a hashtag really small somewhere in the video clip. So see if you can find it if you're interested to see what I'm going to be talking about next, and make sure you follow me there. Also, I usually put the genre of film somehow in in a hashtag too. On the video clip. So if it's like a type of film, like let's just say it was like Saw or something like that, you don't like torture porn in that, then you know like the next film you review you probably won't be interested in. So make sure you follow me there to stay in the loop on Instagram. Yeah, make sure you like this video, share it somewhere people are aware of it. I think it deserves a little more recognition than it gets. And yeah, make sure you like this video. Comment down below if you've seen it, your opinions on it. I'd love to hear it. Also, if you have any other films you want to hear my opinions on, comment those down below. I'll try my hardest to get to them as soon as I can in the future, and if I can find them. So hopefully I can. And yeah, also make sure you subscribe because usually you never know what the hell I'm going to talk about next, and I have some pretty weird movies to talk about next. So make sure you stay in the loop and subscribe so you can hear more about films you probably never heard of. But till then, be careful going into abandoned castles, and yeah, try to stay safe as much as this coronavirus allows it. So, yep, see you in the next review.